after production we move into the actions phase, and that's when we start doing things like playing our cards. There's about 10 different actions or more that we can take on a turn. We're going to try and cover all of those during the course of this playthrough. Let's see what Rue wants to do first.
The first thing I'm going to do is spend 1 fuel to get 3 negotiation range. And I'm going to take the negotiation action to take this card and place it on the top of this card here, which is forming a deal. This cost me 3 because if you look here, you can see the 3 here. This is how much the item costs.
Okay, so Thieves' Caravan has a range requirement of 3, and to create a deal at the Thieves' Caravan, he needed to create a total negotiation range of 3, which he can do using his caravan, his basic skill. We're paying 1 fuel, this blue resource, which his base card provided. And what's the point of this deal? Why have you placed this deal here? What's this going to do for you?
Well, every turn when you collect your base resources
in the production phase,
you can take a universal resource, which works as any resource.
Okay, so there's lots of different types of resources like fuel. This one's kind of like a wild card. So what you've done there is you've kind of powered up your production phase by making this deal at the caravan. What we'll see is that there's 3 different things you can do with each card. There's this blue phase, which is what he's just done with this, for establishing this deal, this negotiation action. Then you've got the red bit, which is conquest, and we'll cover that in a minute. And then in the middle is the incorporation, and that's when you actually put the Thieves' Caravan in your factions locations. Okay, so you've had your action, now it's my turn. And what I'm going to do, so this was creating deals, which is quite good, but let's show you some of the other actions here. Let's try and place the Rubble Trader as a location. This has a location range of 1. I'm not going to play it as a deal, so I don't need these blue resources. The negotiation range. What I need is incorporation range. Okay, and I've got incorporation range because it was given to me as a bonus for the start of the turn. So I'm going to place the Rubble Trader in my player area. I'm going to spend this token, which gives me 1 incorporation range, to get this location out into play. So I'll discard this. And the good thing about Rubble Trader, we ignore the blue part, we ignore the red part, it's just the centre parts, alright? So each card has these 3 different functions. So this is a location now in my faction's empire, if you like, and this little icon here says that I can send workers here. If I send a worker here and I spend 1, this is a rubble resource, like the fuel resource you saw Rue used last time, I can spend rubble resources to create 1 victory point. So this Rubble Trader will, with the aid of worker tokens, turn rubble into victory. And we'll see that hopefully as I continue with the next action. But that's my action done. Back over to you, Rue.
Okay, well, I'm going to do a incorporation action with Sharrash. Mine's also got a range of 1, so I'm going to use this incorporation contact token to pay to build it.
Great stuff. So you've done exactly the same thing as mine. Yours doesn't have a worker icon on it, does it? Remember, he's incorporated this into his faculty now. There's a location, so ignore the red part, ignore the blue part. It does have a worker icon on it, but this is at the opposite end, not here. What this card has is a production icon, and that means that every production phase he's going to get 1 of these contact tokens, and this is like a wild card production token. So we've both used our negotiation contact tokens, but this one's kind of a wild card. We can use it for incorporation, negotiation, or conquest. So that's a great one to have. But this is sitting in his play area like that, and what that means now is my action. Remember, I've got these 4 workers. I can place 1 of my workers. I haven't got any rubble, you see, so there's no point me placing one of my workers here on the Rubble Trader, but I can place it on Sharrash over here. So I can place a worker on a location, and it could be one of my locations or one of my opponent's locations, but only my opponent who's got a worker icon here at the top of their card. And by placing the worker here, I get the reward. Okay, so he can't do this on his turns. Only if the worker icon was down here could Roo go and do this as an action, but I can as his opponent. So I'm going to go and grab myself one of these wildcard contact tokens. There we go, and that's going to help me in a moment. Okay, your turn. While Roo's thinking about what he's going to do for his turn, you see this this icon here by contrast. This says that my opponent cannot place workers on my location, but I can. It's got the worker icon here, not the production one. So there's different types of locations. You see some that opponents can, some that opponents can't, some that are production locations, some are locations where you send your workers. Okay, so this was a good one for me. He can't make use of it.
For my action, I'm going to send 2 workers to go and get a resource.
Okay, so that's one of the other actions you can do, is you can send two workers out to the market and in exchange grab 1 resource.
I'm going to take a weapons resource.
Excellent. These are the different types of resources. So we've got weapons, fuel we've already seen, rubble I've talked about, that my Rubble Trader. These are the universal tokens that Roo's going to get in his production phase next time due to that deal he made, and they're kind of like the wild cards. And this other one here, this is scrap. So each of these different resources are going to power different locations. Back to my turn then. This is my hand. I've got a marketplace. This is going to give me a nice universal production token if I wanted to, and another way to get victory points is location. This hold looks quite good. I want to play this marketplace, but I haven't got enough range. I've got my universal contact, but that only gives me 1 range. I need 2 range to do a deal here. But there's something I can do. With the winter expansion, I can send a worker off to the frozen city. And by sending a worker to the frozen city, I can take 1 of these cards. And I'm going to grab these merchants here, because that's going to give me the 2 range I need for negotiation. Okay, and then next time I can get this in. Your turn.
I'm going to send a worker to the frozen city, and I'm going to pick up this leader, Borgo the Almighty.
Nice one, okay. Right, leaders are good, and maybe we should think about doing that too, but who's left? Mr. President? Yeah. Before he grabs him, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to send a worker to the frozen city and grab Mr. President. Okay, your turn.
I'm going to play Borgo the Almighty.
So on your turn you can, for free, if you don't have a leader in play, place a leader in your faction. He's got this icon on him too, hasn't he? The hand icon here means when this card comes into play, the leader receives 1 range conquest token, this thing here, and normally resources at the end of the turn will disappear. Any resources you don't spend will disappear, but this clock here means that this token that we receive will stay here on this card until we choose to use it. And that's useful because that means Borgo the Almighty is going to be able to do some conquesting this or on a later turn using that 1 range. Excellent. Okay, my turn, and now I can put this marketplace into play. And this is one of the subtle differences between this and New Era. In New Era, if I wanted to play this merchants, I would do it now, and I would get a 2 negotiation range token, and then on my next action I would then play marketplace. But in 51st State you just play this card to pay for this all in 1 action. So I'm placing marketplace, it's got a 2 range, and I'm doing this deal, so this goes under my base card, and that means during the next production phase I'll get one of these universal resource tokens, and the merchants, they go off to the discard pile. Okay, your turn.
I'm going to use this gun weapon, and I'm going
So you're going to use that on your, what are they called?
Gangers.
Gangers? remember each one of us has this faction card. So here's Gangers here. For one weapon gets a 2 conquest range. Okay, excellent.
The card I'm playing 2 conquest range for is the church. So I will get this red bit here, which is worth 2 victory points.
Okay, so the range of the church is 2. You've got your 2 conquest range. So where do you put this card?
I'm going to put this on the top of my card as a spoil.
Okay, under your base card, and that's a spoils now, right? Okay, and spoils, not unlike deals. Deals are going to give you their resources every production phase. For spoils, they don't give you anything in production phase unless you choose to discard them, right? So if you choose to discard your spoils, that gets thrown into the discard pile, and you'll get 2 victory points. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, cool. You've got 2 cards there now. You've got 1 deal and 1 spoils, but there's something called a 3-slot rule. Do you want to explain that for us?
Well, you can only have 3 cards on your base card, and if you have more than that, you'll have to discard one to place another one on there.
Okay, excellent. So you've got room for 1 more card on your base card. Now, in addition, Borgo the Almighty's got a trait down here.
So every time I play a spoils, I gain 1 victory point, which I will place on Borgo the Almighty.
Okay, that's great. So you've got 1 victory point now for Borgo. And yeah, that's going to take effect every time you play a spoils card. And this 3-slot rule that you talked about with the number of cards that you can play on your base card, there's also, it applies to the number of victory point tokens that are on a particular card. That could be a leader or a location. That means we can have a maximum of only 3 victory point tokens on Borgo the Almighty. And that means that this trait can't be used a 4th time. Okay, my turn. And I've still got my token here to spend, and I've got 1 worker left and a whole bunch of cards in my hand. Let's see, what can we do to get this Rubble Trader working? Well, we can think about that in a minute. Let's get Mr. President down, because he's a leader and I can play him for free, and he's also got a hand, which means he's going to get this token here, and it's going to stay on Mr. President. This is a redevelopment token. We'll show you what that means a little bit later, but it means we can redevelop one of our locations, but you don't know what that means just yet.
I don't have anything else to do.
Okay, so you've ended your turn. So Rue's got no more actions to take, but I still have a worker, and I've still got this range token here, this universal one. So I can still do something. What I'm going to do is, as 1 action, I can discard 2 cards and draw 1 more card. So I'm going to discard these 2 and draw a card. Yeah, that looks a lot better. That looks a little bit more suitable for the kind of things I want to do. Let's use my token to play the hold as a spoils. So we're going to take a conquest action. I'm going to pay for it with this token because of the 1 range. That goes on my base card. And we've conquered the hold. Discard this. I've still got 1 worker left, and I'm going to quickly send him over to the Frozen City, I think. And grab the motorcycle gang, and this is just going to go in my hand. Alright, I think we're all done. So that concludes the action phase. Next phase, the 4th phase, is our victory point count.
I gain 1 victory point for each location and leader I have in play, plus any more additional for every token I have.
So that gives you a score of
3.
And I've got pretty much the same. 1 location, 1 leader, that's 2 victory points. So I'm just lagging behind by a single point at the moment. Actually, we've got some smaller tokens that might fit better. Finally, it's the cleanup phase, and we would at this point, if there's any cards left in the Frozen City face up, we would discard those. And now we have to get rid of any unspent resources except anything here, any of these tokens that are sitting on, like these two leaders with the clock, which means that these things are staying here for as long as we need them to. I've got nothing here to get rid of. These 4 workers go to the supply.
And I'll put away these resources.
And that worker that I put here. Excellent. Okay, that ends the cleanup phase. Join us next time as we begin round 2.